Everyone, this is Lucanator here, and today I have a PSY-Frame deck profile for you guys. This is the deck that I've been playing at locals recently. It is updated for most recent ban lists, so August 28th. I think the PSY-Frames that could actually be quite strong right now because a lot of their bad matchups have been hit on the ban list, and I just think they're a really underrated deck, so they could come back, you never know. This is going to be a long, in-depth video, so I'm going to be explaining every single card choice in here and why it's made. So for those of you who are perhaps new to the deck, that should be extremely beneficial. But if you just want to see a quick deck list, I'll be releasing another video for that shortly, if it's not already been released. So be sure to check that out. So right, let's get right into it. So 3 driver. You need 3 because if you run 2, you run too much of a risk of both of them getting banished, and then if that happens, you lose. So that's why you run 3. Even if you draw it in hand, unless you draw multiple, it's never too dead, to be honest, because you can ditch it off a PSY-Frame circuit, you can ditch it for Twin Twisters, you can ditch it for PSY-Frame Overload. So you can always use it in some way, well, almost always. So you definitely need 3. Next up, staple in the PSY-Frame deck, 3 alpha. This gives you your primary search, which is really nice. If you're going second and you open this and no field spell, for example, you just drop this and then you can search field spell, which gives you a lot of advantages. Also, because this probably won't be destroyed by your opponent because it's going to get banished in the end phase. It sets up Psychic Fill Zone a lot better, which is quite nice. So yeah, it's a really good card. It's just standard in the deck. Then again, standard in the deck right now, 3 beta. Negates attacks, prevents you taking damage, which is really nice. Gives you a lot of border control, which is quite nice. Yeah, it's just standard. You need 3. It's basic in the archetype. Then the best gear in the deck, 3 gamma. The fact it's level 2, meaning you get Omega off of it, is a lot better than other level 1s where you get Zeta. Also negating monster effects. Every deck apart from barrier statues or something similar will use monster effects, so this is really good. It negates a lot of stuff, gives you a lot of advantage, and if you time it right, you can really just disrupt everything your opponent's trying to do. Then 3 delta. 3 delta right now because Card of Demise's card and Pot of Desires. So you need to negate those things, otherwise your opponent just gets 3+, which is not good. Normally I'd run 2, but Pot of Desires is a card, so yeah. But yeah, there's 3 of those. Right now I consider that standard. Then 3 KKD. You don't special summon during your turn, obviously, because, you know, PSY-Frames. So this is good in anything where you can run it. You don't run Pot of Desires because you can banish Driver, and if you banish too many of them, then it's bad because you can't play. So yeah, I don't like Desires for that reason. KKD is just a lot more safe, in my opinion, and people don't usually stop it, so yeah. And then the PSY-Frame deck, you're running Circuit at 3 because you need it, otherwise you can't do anything. Well, you just can't synchro summon, so you basically can't do anything. The effect that people forget, like the second effect where you turn anything into a Blackwing Glue or something, a lot of people forget that, so you can kind of abuse that, which is quite nice. Also, it's an out to things like Towers, Chaos Max, etc. So it's obviously a really good card. It lets you run, lets you use your deck. And I'm only running 1 Terra because you have a lot of draw power with KKD and Pot of Duality, which I'll get to in a minute. And, wrong card. Alpha can search it, so I don't feel that you need 2. And if you do run 2, I found that it clogged quite a bit, so that's why I'm running the 1. Then next up, triple Duality. If you're running KKD, run Duality. It's just the default way of playing things. Increases your consistency by loads. Obviously, it's Duality. Like, considering the PSY-Frames don't actually have that many monsters, that you play, because you don't play Epsilon, it's terrible. This is just really nice. Also, you can have a few dead cards, so Driver, some of the spell cards, Terraforming for example, multiple field spell. Duality lets you filter through that, which is nice. And I'm running 2 Psychic Path and 2 Psychic Field Zone. So you need some of these cards, it's like ways to get Driver back. Otherwise, you run too much of a risk of running out. Like even with 3, you can still run out a lot. So in general, and with this, you want to be going into a Mega, because you can take it off board a lot easier. Like if you can take Zedge off board, then it's fine to make, but usually you want to make a Mega because it's just if you have monsters on board, then you can't activate PSY-Frame, so it's just easier to take them off board. And Psychic Path, it's really good. You combo it with Overload, and you just get rid of 2 of your opponent's cards, which is really nice. It's kind of like a card, but it requires more setup. But it gives you 2 gears, which is really busted. Sorry. So yeah, I don't run any more than this because it clogs. So 2 and 2. You could run another 1 maybe, but I don't feel it's necessary. You also do need to run at least 2 of these, because if your opponent literally does nothing, you can't make monsters. So you need something like this to allow you to win. Then I'm running 2 Dark Hole. This is because a lot of things right now, they can actually be destroyed by card effect. The only archetype out right now that can't be destroyed by card effect that easily is Blue Eyes, which you can play around it reasonably easy, and generic pendulum decks. So like anything else, and that's quite a few other things, you can play this against them and it will do a lot of damage, or obviously it just clears their board. Reason not a Raigeki is because you want to clear your own board as well. Like say your opponent's done something fancy and they've given you a monster like a Kaiju or something, you want to be able to get rid of that as quickly and easily as possible. So like this allows you to do that. Like I think it's just really good right now. Like Dark Hole and Dark Hole and Mirror Force, you only really run them if the meta allows you to, and right now the meta does, so I run them. Then 2 Twin Twister. PSY-Frames are actually really weak to back row. It may not seem like it, but they are. The synchros can actually die to back row quite easily if your opponent knows how to play. And your gears, they can just get Solemn Striked or something. So you need to run ways of getting rid of them. Otherwise you'll just be unable to do anything and just roll over and die basically. So yeah, and you can also pay the cost quite happily. You have plenty of cards that can be dead, so Twin Twisters is really nice to run. So yeah, then 3 PSY-Frame Overload. This card is the best card in the deck. Ask any PSY-Frame player, they will tell you this card is the best card in the deck. Well, probably. Like the ability to just 1-for-1 any card is absolutely ridiculous. Like even if it dies, you just get search, so you just laugh at your opponents like, oh, okay, I win. If you open 1 or 2 of these, and the rest of your hand isn't terrible, you've almost won the game at that stage, because that's how good this card is. It single-handedly, it pretty much wins you the game. Because like if you play this, go like +1 or 2 by doing fancy PSY-Frame things, and you win off of that, because you just 1-for-1 every card until your opponent has 0, and then you just go, okay, I have 1 card on board, you have none, I win. Like that's how PSY-Frames work. So yeah, I'll always run 3. Then I'm running 2 Summon Limit right now. This affects like most things. If you play this, your opponent cannot Synchro and they cannot XYZ, because like most of the time it requires them to summon twice. The only way I can think of like actually gaining access to your extra deck is by playing PSY-Frames or Pendulum Summoning. So Like I get this. This is bad against pendulums. Um, reason it works in PSY-Frames is because the effect on gamma. If you can read it, no, the quality is too bad. I'll read it for you. Um, you can special summon both this card from your hand and one PSY-Frame driver from wherever. There's no punctuation in between them, so that means the summon occurs at the same time, so it counts as one summon for the purposes of summon limit. So like it reduces the amount of gears you can play to 1 per turn because you play the gear then you sync her obviously. But if you negate one summon and your opponent only has access to one more, they can't really do anything else. So this is one of the reasons I run it. Like I was playing PSY-Frames like for so long. I've played so many games of PSY-Frames. And one of the problems I was running into was just getting rushed down really quickly. So like this prevents that quite happily. I was running 3 at one point, like in main, but I feel like it's a bit too unreliable because if you open multiple, it doesn't do anything, and a lot of decks just don't summon enough times to warrant it. So I'm only running 2 right now, but it's a really good card. It's just so good. Then rounding off the main deck, we have 2 Storming Mirror Force. No one at my locals has any Drowning Mirror Force for trade, so I can't have those. Otherwise, these would definitely be drowning. But you need another way to prevent yourself taking damage and to get rid of your opponent's board. PSY-Frames actually struggle with full built-up boards, so that's why the Storming Mirror Force and the Dark Hole. Also, Dark Hole sets up Drowning Mirror Force, which is quite nice if Dark Holes had drownings. But yeah, like also your any of your opponent's back row removal is going to be targeted at the summon limit, at the PSY-Frame overload, at the PSY-Frame circuit. It's not going to be necessarily targeted at blinds. So it's less likely that these get hit. So you can actually just use this a lot more frequently than you would in other decks, just because you have so many other priority back row targets. Like it does kind of suck if all your circuits and overloads gets popped by whatever, but if you can then storming their entire field, and so if it was all extra deck, you just laugh at them, go, okay, I don't care, I've got no back row, you've got no cards. So yeah, it's really good in the right scenarios. On to the extra deck. 99% of the games that I play, my extra deck consists of these. My apologies, I just hit the camera. I'm a spoon. Of these 4 cards. So the 2 Omega, 2 Zeta. You don't really need more because you can recycle themselves, obviously. And let's say you were to make a 3rd Omega. So if you've made 2 of these, that means you've used 2 either Delta or Gammas in combination, and you've used the effect of 2 of these. So with Delta and or Gamma, that's 2 cards they got rid of. With the 2 Omegas, that's 4 cards they got rid of. If you then were to play another gear of level 2, that's 5 cards. So they have 1 card left if they're going second. So they have no resources, you may as well just make whatever the hell you feel like, it doesn't affect you. And Zetas you just don't usually make that many of. Like the beta trigger is semi-unreliable, because, you know, they have to actually be attacking you. And players don't always do that, because they're scared of, like, beta. Like, oh, if I attack, I'll get beta, and then I go neck, and I don't want to do that, so they just don't attack. And then alpha being a trigger effect, you can't always activate it, which is slightly annoying, but hey. Zeta is better for when they have a full board, because you can take things off their field. And then even when it dies, you can cycle a monster back to your hand, which is really nice for just raw card advantage, which is like why it's really good for built up boards. Whereas Omega is a lot better for preventing your opponent from just doing anything in general. Like you obviously you take the card out of their hand, and you have 1 less card to play with, so they're less likely to be able to do anything. So you can just prevent them doing anything, which is really good. Also the age-old combo. This engrave, this on field, you just get 1 such a turn. You get it in the standby phase, which is quite nice as well. Or what you could do is like you could be smart and when you activate your Omega, you can get the search at the same time, like in the same chain link, or in the same chain, not chain link. I'm bad at terminologies. But then you can just adapt your search to whatever you need. If you get this combo off, so this engraver's on field, and this doesn't die immediately, you can win quite happily just because you get basically an extra draw per turn. Like, this is basically your extra deck for most games. The rest of the extra deck, 7s, so we have a Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon. So the key effect on this is monsters in your opponent's possession, so it's wherever they have them, graveyard, hand, wherever, cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. So this is good against Cosmo and Burning Abyss if you've got a card advantage and you need to just beat them down and prevent them from bringing themselves back to life again, because they do that and they're annoying. So this is just a win more card against those decks. It's just a bit more secure, and it actually helps you finish the game sometimes. So yeah, that's why I'm running this. Clearwing Synchro Dragon. It stays alive slightly, so it can negate other monster effects, and it's resistant to being targeted, so once per turn it negates it. So that means it's not going to just get instantly destroyed by whatever your opponent's going to do. So like that's why I play it. Reason it has to be like somewhat survivable is because 98% of the time you're going to be synchro summoning during your opponent's turn. So you need to be able to have your monsters survive. Like the PSY-Frames, they do that just by banishing themselves for a turn, and then they come back, of course, during your standby phase. So that way they don't die. But other monsters don't have that, so they need some way of protecting themselves. So that's why I run this in case I run out of Zetas. I'm running a Michael because obviously PSY-Frames are light monsters. It's basically single targeted removal. So it lets you get rid of back row, which is quite nice. Just by paying a K, and it vanishes. You can also obviously hit monsters, so you just get rid of any problem cards. Although like it rarely comes into play because most problem cards prevent you from synchro summoning, so that's why one of the reasons you will never make it. When you can synchro summon, it's usually better to make one of the PSY-Frames. So yeah, it's there. It's situational. Black Rose Dragon. If you Black Rose during your opponent's turn and they've overcommitted, it's just kind of like, ha, I win. You do have to be careful though, because you will be destroying your PSY-Frame circuit. And like any other back row you've got, so your summon limit is the key one. But if you play this at the right time, you can win off of it potentially. I haven't used it recently, I don't think. There's very rarely situations where you'll be able to play this and making Zeta won't be better. So yeah, that's why I run it, because Black Rose during your opponent's turn is fun. Those are the level 7s. In the level 8s, we have a Starter Spark, same reason as Clearwing, it's slightly survivable. I guess you can use it to protect circuit, but it's really situational. Like most of the extra deck, apart from these 4, is really situational. Thought Ruler, it gives you life points, and it's slightly survivable. That's the only reason it's run. Because PSY-Frames, they can take a lot of damage easily. You don't usually want to go minus just to prevent damage, because if you go minus by like 2, you lose, because you just can't do anything with without the cards in PSY-Frame. You can't just play with like 2 cards and go plus 50 or something stupid. So yeah, that's why the Thought Ruler. Crimson Blader, this is it's kind of similar to Meteor Burst, but it's against different decks, so it'll be against Blue Eyes or something, so it's win more against Blue Eyes. But yeah, it's very situational. And Scrap Dragon, same reason as Michael, it's single targeted removal. Okay, you have to blow some of your one of your own cards up, but usually it will just blow itself up so you clear your board. So it's not too bad. Yep. Then I'm running Go-Yo King. it's like a good version of Go-Yo Guardian, but it requires a synchro, and I have effect veilers inside, so I synchro with Zeta into it. So whenever it destroys something, you can and sends it to the graveyard. So it could be like a Karibo or something tiny. You can take control of any monster on their Saddler field, and it doesn't target. So obviously that's really good. Gives you a lot of board control. But then again, if you have a Zeta on board and an effect veiler in hand, and you're able to summon this, and the attack goes through, it's not likely to be that useful. So yeah, it's really situational, but it can win you games. I've never made it. The only cards I've actually made out of this is Starter Spark, this once, this twice maybe. So yeah, not you don't use this very often at all. It's all just situational. Scarlight, it clears boards, similar to how like PSY-Frame struggle with built-up boards. So it's basically a dark hole, but in a monster form, so it's slightly more accessible, kind of. But if you play it during your opponent's turn, which is when you're going to be summoning it, it's probably going to die. So yeah, it's really unlikely to be useful, but it's there for the situation. And then finally, Overmind Archfiend. This is essentially a level 9 Psychic type synchro. That's literally all it is, because where are you? Psychic Field Zone. If you have a Omega or a Zeta banished off of usually PSY-Frame Overload, or your opponent's running Dimensional Prison or something, then if you can put these back, it really helps, because if you have one banished, then you can potentially run out quite easily. And then this, instead of the other level 9, the one that pierces and gives you life points back, you just like summon this in when it gets summoned off of the field zone, it's summoned in defense mode. So pardon me. You can just like store for a turn, maybe 2, and just banish a few things out your graveyard, say a driver and a gear, and then when it dies, you can get an Omega or a Zeta back for free, which is quite nice. Even after you summon it, you'll return one of these to graveyard. You do not want to banish the synchro with its effect. This is because like this can miss timing on its effect, and it could just be not like sent to the graveyard. So you're kind of counteracting the purpose that you played it for with the field zone. You're just losing your synchro again, so it's kind of pointless. But yeah, that's the actual deck. Like I mentioned, it's basically only 4 cards. I've made Overmind twice, maybe, once of which was kind of trolling. But yeah, side deck. So I have 2 Effect Veiler. These are quite good when going second against certain types of decks that have effects that resolve on field. So things like Speedroid. The Speedroid you run in Burning Abyss, it's really good against, obviously, because it prevents them doing anything, because Burning Abyss effect clause. And it's never too dead, because if you have a Zeta, you can just normal summon it, synchro into the Mega or whatever, and then use the Zeta effect to recover a PSY-Frame gear. So usually a Gamma, so you're essentially swapping Effect Veiler for Gamma. And Effect Veiler is basically Gamma, but worse. But it's better when going second. So that's why I have these inside. It's just useful in some situations. Then I have 1 Electric Virus. This is for Blue Eyes mainly. There's a Blue Eyes monster, the Synchro monster, I forget its name. It prevents your opponent from summoning 2 monsters at once, so you can't activate any PSY-Frames effect. So I just use this on it to bait its effect, so I can actually play PSY-Frames. And if they choose to not dodge it for some reason, I can just tribute it and go into either a Stardust or a what's it called? Lightsworn Michael. See, yeah, that's why that's there. It also can take control of machines, which can be useful, I guess, but it's mainly for Blue Eyes. Third Twin Twister. Against back row heavy decks, you need this, because otherwise you will just die to the sheer amount of back row. Like if your first 2 or 3 synchro summons get negated, you can't do anything. Or like even if your first 3 gears get negated, you can't do anything. So you need a third against some decks. Then I'm actually running 2 Light Imprisoning Mirror. Reason for this is because the Blue Eyes matchup sucks, and this hurts Blue Eyes so much more than it hurts you. The only thing this actually affects is your synchro monsters, and like when you play this, you just go into other synchro monsters. So it's never too much of an issue. Like I don't get why people side it against PSY-Frames. It just doesn't do anything, to be honest. Like yeah, if it hurts, like even though this hurts this deck slightly, Blue Eyes can't actually do anything. I don't think, apart from like Silver's Cry into a Blue Eyes White Dragon. Like that's the extent they can do. So yeah, that's why that is in the deck. Then 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, Burning Abyss. They're still an annoying matchup for this deck, so that's why the Shadow Imprisonings. Also, Destiny Hero Ultimaya is a deck, and it actually works, and it's really annoying. And being Destiny Hero is a dark monster, so this shuts it down quite a bit. So yeah, that's why I'm running Shadow Imprisonings. Most of the start is designed to be as generic as possible, so I can adapt to some of the slightly more random meta that is occurring right now, because most of the major decks, like all previous tier 1 decks, are now severely hit on the ban list, so they can't really be played that well. So that's why I'm using a slightly more adaptive side. So third summon limit. Against some decks just really broken, you have to run 3 basically. It's too good not to, so that's why the third one is here. Then I'm also citing Solemn Warning, Bottomless Trap Hole, and Torrential Tribute. So, fun thing you can do with TT is your opponent summons Chain Alpha, Chain Torrential Tribute. So Chain resolves, TT goes off, their monsters die, you summon Alpha, and then you do stuff. So you generate a lot of board advantage. Like this stuff here is removal. Some decks you need more removal against them. Something like barrier statues, for example. And sometimes you just need to be able to clear monsters off board because there's just too many, or they're too difficult to deal with otherwise. So that's why I'm citing those. And then final 3 cards inside. 3 Forbidden Acrophia? I don't know how you pronounce that name. So if you don't know what it does, declare 1 extra deck name. If extra deck monster type, and if there's 2 of them on the field when it resolves, send them all to the graveyard. So against something like Ultima, you declare Synchro, you kill the Ultima, you kill whatever they summon. Against XYZ spam, you declare XYZ, they all die. So it's kind of like a kill button for extra deck decks. So that's why I run it. I quite like it in the side. It's send to graveyard as well, so it doesn't proc any of their effects, which is really nice. So like when I destroyed. Okay. Oh, for crying out loud! I am so bad with this camera. Apologies. Well, that is the deck profile for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. I will be doing some gameplays with this deck, so be sure to look out for those. Okay, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.